Hello and welcome to the Tongue of the Trees. This is what is Palmarosa essential oil good for the mind, body and spirit. And then we'll talk, as I say, about safety and blending. So I said we would talk about the card, and we will. The sun is really not helping me. I'm going to put this up on a slide. Can you see how it looks like? That's it. Can you see how it looks like a man? You see the arms and the legs. So I always think of that being the Archangel Michael, because Palmarosa is so good at being able to chop through ties that are binding us, ones that are holding us back, and you know, things you just can't get over somehow, you know. So what's interesting is the link gets severed, but the oil itself is for disconnection. So that itself is disconnection, but we want actually to reverse disconnection, don't we? So there's this idea of the polarity of connection, disconnection, and we're going round and round and round and round and round, and somewhere in the middle is where we want to be, and that is where Palmarosa will get us to. I always think about the polarity between love and hate, but actually the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference, isn't it? So that kind of feeling of, well, I'm not all the way over there and I'm not all the way over there. I'm just over it, you know? There we go. That is Palmarosa. I'm so over it. But likewise, we would think of this idea of, I'm okay, I'm really angry, I'm really happy, I'm really angry, I'm really sad, I'm really going up and down and moving and moving and moving and moving all the way over. These mood swings are part of the nervous system. We talked about the nervous system in the first part. It's very, very stabilizing to the nervous system. So how we in the physical medicine talked about how it would be good for neuralgia or for sciatica, this is also extremely good for mood swings. It stops that vacillation between the two and steadies, and steady feels much better. And likewise, if somebody's extremely irritable, you know, easily snapped. I'm smiling because I've been writing about the myth of Demeter and Persephone for a book I'm writing about Melissa. And what's interesting is grasses, I'm really not enjoying the light today, grasses are ruled by Pluto. They always come under the planetary rulership of Pluto, which is a chthonic god. He was obviously Hades, god of the underworld. And Pluto is known for explosions, explosive behavior, plutonic bomb. That's, you know, that it was discovered around about the same time. So if we have a nature where somebody has an explosive temper, where they are very easily set off, there is like the hairpin trigger, and they are very irritable, very irascible, very volatile, very unpredictable is the word I was looking for, then Palmarosa is very good at just taking the edge off them. So we're not all the way over, we don't care. We're not, I overly care. We're just like, well, that's interesting. Okay, would you like a cup of tea? Which is where I strive to be in my life all of the time. Would you like to have a cup of tea? But being a very pitta person, as I always describe myself, if you don't know any Ayurvedic medicine, there's 3 doshas. They are Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So Vata is very dry and brittle and airy and nebulous, and they're very thin. And then you have the Kapha, who's the opposite, that they are slow and they're like mud. They have greasy skin, beautiful, thick features, you know, and they are huge people and they have enormous stamina. So I'm married to somebody who's completely kapha. I've got a son who's completely kapha. I'm completely pitta, but actually that's really rare. It's really rare. Normally you'll have like an interplay of different things going on. So the pitta thing with is tend to have, sometimes have red hair, but you know, that volatile nature that goes with a red-haired person, and the very pale skin that I've got, that's very pitta, and very reactive. You know, everything about a pitta is reactive. If you think of the idea of throwing water onto hot oil, that's a pitta. And so we've got that idea of the mood swings, we've got that idea of the irritability. Well, Salvatore Battaglia tells us that it reduces excess pitta. We can see how that would play out. So we can also see how it would balance out the oily skin that we were talking in the first part. We can see how it would also balance out the sharpness of the nerve pain, because that's very pitta. Pitta, everything about pitta is sharp. We are sharp people. I've got a sharp brain and a sharp tongue. You know, you don't want to be on the end of me. Absolutely not. Because if you cross me, in fact, somebody said to me once in an interview, what would your previous colleagues say about you? And I guess that it was supposed to make you think, but I knew what my previous colleagues said. They always say the same thing. They always say, Liz is lovely till you get to know her. Because I just am like, that's great, but no, I've had enough. And I will cut you dead. And that's the pitta, and it's Mars. It's Aries rising. It's a perfect storm of quite somebody who can be very, very sharp. So Palmarosa is lovely for taking that edge off. Peter Holmes talks about how it has an action on the spleen. And that's very interesting to me, because if we think about Chinese medicine, the spleen is ruled by worry. And the idea that worry will eventually exhaust the spleen. And the spleen does lots of things, but it's in charge of it plays a part in immunity, but it's also got a lot to do with cells, creating cells, blood cells. But if we think about how, we've talked about how it calms the nervous system, we can say, well, that's because it's working on the spleen to bring the worry down. We can say that we talked about how it's antibiotic against things like, we said, if I remember rightly, everything from bronchitis to cystitis. That's because it's working on the spleen to make the spleen work better, to move the worry through, but also shot blast the immunity through the roof. So that's very, very interesting how Peter talks about how the energy moves through the system, how it will settle the nervous system, pacify and strengthen the spleen, and how that plays out through the body. So very interesting how that works on the mental body, but of course it's working on the emotional and spiritual bodies too. Valerie Warwood talks beautifully about Palmarosa. Well, like she does. I swear she gets visited by angels. The way that woman writes about essential oils is just beautiful. And she talks about how Palmarosa helps us to be more gentle and kind to ourselves. And this is an interesting distinction, isn't it? Because we live in a world where we're always talking about one should be kinder to others. But I read once, and I don't know whether this is psychobabble or not, but it seems that it could be true of me, that you have something like 80,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative. I might have made those figures up, but that seems right for me. So that's a poor admission, isn't it? So Palmarosa is very good at being able to say, really? Do you think you need to be that sharp on yourself? See how the pitter's coming in again, that we can be so irascible, but of course it doesn't just go outwards, it comes inwards too. And what I should also talk about with the pitta idea was the other thing, that the Pittas have tremendous appetites, tremendous digestion until we don't. So I would say a classical Pitta meal would be a curry for all the heat and then ice cream. You know, that idea of bang, bang. Boy, it's so bad to eat that way on your digestion. Eventually it will give out. And so if you are suffering from that Pitta digestion where you've got that explosion of acid, then sharpness, feels sharp, feels spiteful, Palmarosa. Interesting. In the book, oh, you can see it for a change. There is a little poem that I wrote, which was told to me by the oil. I can't say by the plant because I don't own a Palmarosa plant, but obviously it came originally from the plant. It says, clinging to situations, people or circumstances feels comforting and secure, even when you have sometimes outgrown their worth. The universe has a funny way of forcing things if we cannot find the guts to release, and with that comes pain and uncertainty. Let my fragrance release the ties from your hands, unclench your fist to allow things to slip away. Together we'll summon Archangel Michael, ask him to draw his sword, sever ties that bind you, and cut the past's cruel cord. Interesting. We're talking about how grasses are ruled by Pluto. And we're talking about the Demeter Persephone story. If you don't know the story, Persephone, previously the maiden called the Kore, was walking in the meadow and she bent down to pluck a narcissus. And as she did, Hades bursts out of the ground and snatches her down into the underworld to make her his queen. And Demeter searches for for 9 days, really. Yes, she searches for 9 days, but nobody will help her. And then she comes upon the goddess Persephone, who says she had heard this happen while she was stirring her cauldron in her cave, but she didn't know what had gone. And she thought that the best person would be to ask was Helios, the sun god, because as he goes across the sky, oh, I like the sun now, I don't know how that works, he saw all the actions of the gods and men. So they asked Helios, who said, yeah, I do know what happened. Hades snatched her away, which made Demeter furious, but she was even more livid when he said that's because his brother Zeus, your husband, Persephone's dad, said, yeah, that you can do that. That's all right. Demeter's not going to let her near any bloke, snatch her away. So you can imagine what she was like. I mean, she was irritable. she was very, very irascible. She was furious. And actually the story really is about mood swings, that she goes from this furious goddess and she goes and there's a long story I'm not going to go into, but eventually she's much happier when Zeus has to intervene, because in her fury Demeter has said, well, I'm just going to withdraw all my powers as goddess. I'm going to stop the spring from coming. I'm going to make everything die. The harvest will no longer come. And this is lovely Greek mythology. Zeus realizes that if he doesn't sort this out, the men will not only starve, but they'll have no sacrifices to give to him. So the sacrifices to give to him are what makes him intercede and say to Hades, you're going to have to sort this out. I did wrong. You're going to have to give her back. And Hades goes, well, she's queen of the underworld with me now. Don't want to do that. Well, you're going to have to. So he tricks her into eating a pomegranate. 4 seeds of a pomegranate. And when she comes out of the underworld, Persephone is led by Hecate holding her torch. And you can imagine Demeter's over the moon. And then she realizes, she says, have you eaten anything? And she says, well, I just had a small amount of pomegranate. And now she knows that she is bound to the underworld, to which she must return for 4 months a year, because she's eaten 4 pomegranate seeds to look after the souls of the dead. And that's obviously winter. You know, it's an allegory of many, many things. And we talk about that in my Melissa book when you come to read it. But in particular, it talks about the winter. But when she goes down to be into Hades realm of the underworld, she becomes what's called a chthonic goddess. And the chthonic goddesses are goddesses of transformation, because the underworld is not hell. Not like we think of hell these days. Hell is a Catholic construct. Didn't exist then. It was considered to be a shadowy place and thought to be an allegory of the subconscious mind. So she goes down into the subconscious mind. And it's Hecate who brings her out. Again, Hecate is goddess of many things, including crossroads, but she's a magical goddess. She is the goddess of magic. And what's really interesting is in Greek mythology, she is the same as we would see for Archangel Michael. Can you see how we've got the cord? See the cord? I'll have to put it on the screen when I come to edit this. I'm going to hate this video because there's so much editing going to have to be done. But there's a straight line, which is the cord. It's the sword of Archangel Michael. But in Greek mythology, it's Hecate who cuts the cord. And that cord could be, it's deemed to be, she's supposed to cut the cord when you are born, so that you can come from the other realm and be embodied in this life. But then also when you die, she cuts the cord and lets you go back to the other realm. So this idea of moving from one place to another, to have a transition from one state to another, to not be held back, not be tethered, is an interesting thing with Palmarosa. So we might think of a rabid dog tied up, you know. When we first cut the leash, it will go ballistic, but eventually it will calm down and we'll see the pitta go down. Very, very interesting oil from that point of view. So that is the mind, body, spirit of Palmarosa. I'm going to show you how to use the Tongue of the Trees cards now in a spread. I'd encourage you obviously to buy your own set, because it's so interesting to be able to pull a card and go, wow, that's what's going on with me today. Interesting, that's the oil I need today. Sometimes the rational mind would not pick up on it. I can tell you it's bizarrely and always right. So I am going to show you the spread. No, I'll show you the slides about this first, then the spread, and then I'm coming back to talk to you about safety. See you in a minute. I'm going to run through a quick layout for you to show you the different cards. Now, one of the things that we're not going to tell you in this video, in these videos, is the poem that goes with the cards. But for this layout, we will read them to you just so that you get a chance to sort of feel how the different poems look. So I thought I'd show you the cards. As you can see, lovely little box. I'll show you the other side. Boring stuff, except for cool stuff what I read. Okay, so if we open it up, we can see that the cards just have one logo on, and that is because these originally were Gergely's cards. He's been selling these for a long time in Hungary. Mostly they've been bought by kinesiologists, interestingly enough. They've been doing the energy work with them. They haven't got any aromatherapy background, but they've been able to tap into the energetics of the oils to be able to move emotional blockages. So let's show you. So these come out nice and easy because we've got beautiful little ribbons. And let's get rid of that. So if I said to the cards, what energy do I need? What oils will help me do the best job with these videos? Let's have a... Now, my friend Belinda used these the other day, and she does have a habit of shuffling them the wrong way. So we'll have to hope that they're all the way right up. I'm not doing a good job of keeping them that way. So let's have a look. What do I need to do a great job? So I think, it's up to you how you do it, but I think cut it 3 ways, cut it back. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So first 3 cards off the top. Cedarwood Virginian. I'll tell you why I'm laughing at that in a minute. Got rose and lavender. That's a beautiful blend, isn't it? Reason why I was laughing about a Cedarwood Virginian is when Gergely and I came to do the notes of all the different cards, we both went, oh, we've done these cards for Cedarwood Virginian and I don't really know how to explain them differently. And because I was doing lots of editing work, I went, oh, just leave it. So yesterday I did a meditation with Cedarwood Virginian and got the most beautiful, beautiful work out of it. So you must tap into that tomorrow, have a listen to that video and see it was really different stuff that came out. So let's have a look. So if we go to the book, we can see that there's a brown streak on cedarwood, and that tells us it's the woods. So we find the woods. Slowly but surely we find the woods. At the back. Okay, so I'm going to use the other cards just to cover up the other pages, because you know what? Sooner or later you're going to have to pay me for something. Yeah. So, Cedarwood Virginian. Actually, I'll show you this, but I'll read it to you because I'm hoping that it doesn't turn back to front on you, but it may well do. So Cedarwood Virginian says, hold strong. Don't be swayed by the winds of change around you. Stand tall. Resist the temptation to listen as the naysayers surround you. Keep focused on the job you have in hand. Remain strategic. Don't veer from tactics you've planned. Listen intently to information on the breeze. Remain determined. Your courage is what makes me pleased. Hold strong. Don't be swayed by the winds of change around you. Stand tall. Resist the temptation to listen as the naysayers surround you. Keep focused on the job you have in hand. Remain strategic. Don't veer from tactics you've planned. Listen intently to information on the breeze. Remain determined. Your courage is what makes me pleased. And I'd forgotten, I stopped halfway through because I'd forgotten this is the only one that went like a round. It kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And that taps in beautifully to the determination, doesn't it? I'm keeping on reminding you. I'm keeping on reminding you. I'm keeping on reminding you. So, and actually, definitely watch the video on Cedarwood Virginian, because you'll see just how spooky that is when you see the meditation work I did. Now, you'll also see on here at the bottom of the page, there's the energetics. Now, we're not going to talk about these energetics at all in the video. You might want to go and buy our knowledge base. Now, the knowledge base is completely based on this, and it is a set of lessons on each of the aspects. So, middle to base. You're going to hear about that today when Gergely does his blending. So, that's there. It also vibrates on the throat chakra. So what does that mean? Within the knowledge base, there is a complete set of information about the different chakras. We do as a lecture on each different chakra, how it affects on the emotional body, how it affects the physical body, how it affects the mental and spiritual bodies, and how that's working. So when we're looking at the knowledge base, this information here describes how the energies move through the system. What energy shift has taken place that we are getting these different physical problems and mental issues. So we can see that cedarwood Virginian operates on the water element and the earth element. And again, in the knowledge base, there's a complete section about, we talk about the about half an hour about the water element, then again about half an hour for the earth element, metal, fire, and whatever the other one is, gone out of my head. And then here we can see Sagittarius. Now, so that tells us that what planetary rulership it comes under. This is medical astrology, and this is actually how I see the different energetics playing out. Some people see it through the Ayurvedic, some people see it through Chinese medicine. This is always the lens I see it through. And usually we'll talk about how it's ruled by the moon or the sun or Saturn and the different trends that we see out. And when we look at an archetype like that, it's like, Jade Shoots always says, it's like a metaphor, and that's a great analogy of how you can see the thread playing out right across the medicine. And so you can see that cedarwood Virginian is Sagittarius. So in the knowledge base, we talk about the different signs and planets and also the different houses. If I remember right, Angelica, for example, falls under the Pisces Aries cusp. So that's really quite a difficult one to understand. There's a whole lesson about the Pisces Aries cusp. And then again, Chinese medicine, it nourishes yin. What does that mean? What does it mean? It calms Shen. Shen is an interesting phenomenon all in its own right. It's a consciousness, our mental faculties, our imagination, our emotions, God with a small g, God with a big G, all of those aspects. There's a complete lesson about Shen and how the essential oils can affect it and change that to move the energy. And then we can see increases Pitta, reduces Vata, balances Kapha. So it's interesting, actually. I do know at the moment all of my oils tend to come out with earth energy. It's quite interesting hearing me do the earth energy lecture because it's entirely about the challenges I am facing at the moment. But if you are somebody who sells essential oils and you're looking for a way in all of the time, right? You're talking to the person at the school gate, for example, and you can see, she seems a healthy girl, to be honest. She's loving her kids, she seems happy. Imagine somebody who's got a really sing-song voice all the time. Oh, my darling, how did you get on today? Was it lovely? I know. And then child walks off. How are you? To everybody. If that sing-song voice never quite relents, then you can imagine that there's an earth energy imbalance. So any oils that fall under earth energy are good ones to sell. So yeah, if you are interested in learning more about that, ways in, just kind of being able to see, talking to somebody, what might be clues of what's going on of that energetic shift, then head over the knowledge base to have a look at that. So what was our next card? It was Rose, wasn't it? Queen of Roses, as you know. I do love my roses. Let's have a look. So the flowers, I think, are at the front of the book, if I remember rightly. Beautiful pink. Oh, we're both flowers, aren't they? So rose, rose, rose. Damask rose. I was thinking we'd miss Rose out, but it's not under Duff for Rose. It's under, sorry, it's not Rough for Rose. It's Duff for Damask rose. I remember writing this one, actually. This is quite sad. So it says, standing by your graveside or sobbing into your pillow. I know your pain. On the days when you feel lonely, worried or sad, I know your pain. Through the nights where sleep seems far away and you feel like you might break, amidst the anger, the confusion and desolation, I feel your pain. For I was there, remember? when you smelled the roses of their love as your fingertips stroked my petals and tried to avoid the prick of thorn. I felt your hopes, your fears, your joy of deep connection. I ensnared it in my scent to help conjure that affection. In my fragrance remember hope. Let my aroma you complete. May scent of celebration heal you, calm you and help you sleep. For through me you are never alone, always loved and open to give and receive more. Smell me, open up and feel safe to feel love once more. Now I anticipate that these will be different for everybody, but that's entirely my dad talking to me. I feel quite choked up reading that actually. When he died, he gave me a rose bush. My cousin works for a rose bush company, David Austin Roses. I'm sure you've heard of them. He's quite a senior manager there, and Dad arranged for a rose called Noble Anthony to be given to me and my sisters at the funeral. So I go and sit and talk to the rose bush. That's a great reminder that my dad's with me today. So that actually, Dad, that really helps. Thank you. So let's have a look at the energetics. We can see middle heart chakra, obviously. Water. Now, again, as I say, in the knowledge base, there is a much bigger lecture on water, but the energy of water is how it can flow around any obstacle and find a way to fill the space. So that's great. That's lovely. And Venus is obviously the planet of love, but there's lots more to do with beauty and money. Actually, it's an interesting lecture on Venus. I like talking about Venus. Balance is Vata, Pitta and Kapha. If you don't know, Vata is very drying, Pitta is hot and fiery and moist, and Kapha is sluggish. So it brings it all into alignment. But in the knowledge base, as I say, different lectures on each of those. So it nourishes the blood. Well, I've got funny blood actually, so that's useful to know, Dad. Thank you. Yin and essence. So yin is the feminine aspect. It's very gentle and passive and receptive, and it harmonizes the heart and Shen. We just talked about Shen. So we're going to put all these in a blend in a minute. And so last but not least, the cards have told me that I should go for lavender, which I guess is probably just over the page. Still in the pinks, as you can see. Oh, I remember this one too. Cover them up, cover them up. Can you see? There we go. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you breathe me, dilly dilly, softly you dream. Anger and grief, dilly dilly, softly drift by. Worries and hurts, dilly dilly, kiss them goodbye. When you feel tense, dilly dilly, look for the bees. See how they buzz, dilly dilly, resting with ease. Learn from their hum, dilly dilly, for they all know. Learning to rest, dilly dilly, helps you to grow. Breathe in the scent, dilly dilly, lavender's light. Calm your stressed mind, honey, honey, surrender the fight. Release cares and worries, dilly dilly, I help you to see. Life is so good, dilly dilly, just let it be. Okay, I'm going to let them flow, not force them. This helps, this really helps, you know. I've got to tell you, when I was helping Gergley do this, he was sending me his notes, and every time they came across it, I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to do the cards. These are really hard. I didn't like my poems at all. Really found them difficult to do, and really I just wanted to be writing my Melissa book, which I kind of still do, but I'm feeling a bit happier. Now I've got the cards in my hands and I can see them because they really help. Honestly, they really, really help. So, and of course I might be biased because it's my words talking back to me, but hearing the plants and seeing it written down, it's very, very helpful. So, actually I've probably skipped the most valuable part of the process for speed. But when you turn out your cards, if you have got the oils, I would sit and breathe the oil as you read the poem. And that's very difficult to do on this camera like this, but because then you will really hear, you'll have that connection with the plant. It will open it up to you. So top to middle note, as I say, Glay's going to talk to us about the blending. Water, we've just talked about how that finds ways, effortlessly finds gaps to do things, doesn't force it, just gets around any obstacle. Heart chakra again. Mercury, communication, data, information. Yeah, that's very a mercurial medicine. We'll talk about that. I know it's a very interesting lecture about Mercury. I originally wrote the Mercury ropes for the pain practitioner program. And so these are quite detailed lectures, about half an hour long, the medical astrology ones, because of course that's my passion. Neutral to cool is the action. Yeah, cooling like the roses. Activates chi. Now again, we'll talk about chi in the knowledge base, but basically it's the life force. You know how we said we talked about Shen? Well, if Shen doesn't have adequate chi forcing it through, then it becomes disrupted. And I always think about it feeling like you're treading water. So the activation of chi calms Shen, or nourishes Shen, or raises Shen, depending on which essential oil it is. It aggravates Vata. So yes, this is one of my favourite nags. So the world tells you to put lavender essential oil into every massage oil, into your moisturiser, into your bath. So it aggravates Vata, people. It will dry you out. That is how you get dry skin. Aggravates Vata, makes you a bit vapid, a bit dreamy. So all of the time you're like, you know, like the dreamers that wander around on a cloud. If you're not careful, too much lavender makes you that. Pacifies kapha, so it stops you feeling sluggish, stops you feeling heavy. It's not really directly indicated for constipation, but that shift of energy through kapha would release not only constipation, but congestion in the sinuses. And pacifies pitta. Well, pitta is hot, so it's calming. It reduces inflammation. Anything that's red, hot, angry, it'll calm it down. So there we go. So first, I've got my smelly stick. And really, this is only because then I can stick it down my top and you won't be able to see it. So we could use aroma pendants, we could use massage oil, sniffy sticks, whatever. This is just what works for me, and that's the most important thing, that it's the thing that works for you. So cedarwood Virginian is a fast oil, if I remember rightly. So this is quite a thin distillation. Ooh. And then we'll mop up everything off the table. Dip it up, wipe it up. Oh, it's so beautiful, it's smoky. It's beautiful, and I can tell you the lecture is about tapping into your ancestral line, and given that my ancestral line is full of wizards and witches, that's very helpful. Lots of plant healers coming to my aid. So a bit of lavender. Warm the bottle. You'll notice I cover the thing. It's not because I'm covering the labels, although it's because I can't be bothered going, don't ask me which oils I use. But it's more because it's very cold in this shed. So things get stiff. Especially myrrh, goodness me, when we come to do the myrrh video, I'll have to warm it up 3 weeks before. And then beautiful, beautiful rose. Look at the colour of that, beautiful. It's my favourite bit, you know, was it waiting for it to come out, just seeing the colour. Have I got the nerve to let it drop? I have. Go on, mix, 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 blend. You know, whenever I try and do videos, I always want to have the image of oils mixing, and it nobody ever quite videos that effectively. I think it would be beautiful. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that is sheer heaven. just beautiful. So yeah, if you obviously want to buy the cards, there's a link underneath that tells you where to get them from. But also if you want to use the knowledge base, there's a link through to that too. And goodness me, when you start to smell that and you feel all the knowledge base opening up all the different shifts in the body and how they move and how they're executing through the physical body, it's really extraordinary. It's a whole new layer to plant medicine. So there we go. That is how to do the blending. Can't wait for you to watch Gergely talk about proper blending in a minute. So hopefully you found this spread interesting and that you're thinking you might buy some Palmarosa oil. And if you do, obviously there's many suppliers, but if you decide to buy your cards from Fragrant Earth, who do English sales but also international sales, they can also sell you some Palmarosa and send it out too. And so in which case you would need to know about the safety, which is very straightforward, to be honest. It's 3% maximum dilution. So if this is new to you, we would say take a teaspoon of carrier. So a teaspoon is around about 5 ml, and 1 ml is around about 20 drops. So we're talking about 100 drops in a teaspoon of carrier oil. So that means in that teaspoon you can safely put 3 drops, if that's for an adult. It is an oil that you could use on children happily and safely. I wouldn't use it on really little ones under 2, simply because it can be sensitive. You know how I said not necessarily on sensitive skin. Kids' skins are very sensitive, aren't they? In terms of pregnancy, happy for you to use it after 16 weeks. I always say don't use any essential oils in the first 16 weeks. Maybe I'm overcautious, but it seems to me that the body, we don't want an immune response towards a child or a newborn baby, not even newborn, new formed baby. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to create an immune response with Palmarosa, but by 16 weeks that would be okay. In terms of cats and dogs, if you want to diffuse it around the cat and dog, yeah, it's fine. And also use it in a really low dilution, maybe 1% on animals, and I think it would be fine. There's nothing in there that would bother me too much about Palmarosa oil. So that is the safety. Very easy oil to use, very docile, simple, friendly, benign is the word I'm looking for, benign oil. So now I am going to send you over to Budapest and talk to Gergely about how do you blend Palmarosa oil.
Hello Tug of the Trees fans, this is Gergely and this is the blending video part for video 2 on Palmarosa. Palmarosa, and the keyword is adjustments. So Palmarosa, you can see this plant belongs to the Poaceae or the grass family, and although I've seen it live when I was in India, and it looks a little bit like this. Well, I could say this is Palmarosa, but it's actually not Palmarosa. It's actually, I got it from one of my palm trees in the room. And then Palmarosa actually looks more vivid, and then the green is just lighter. And but anyways, it looks like grass, right? Palmarosa. When I started learning aromatherapy, that was one of the essential oils that I actually came across, and I started playing with. And then now I should say, I mean, like it's I think I like that oil, but as you go on with your studies and then you are playing around with more oils and you are discovering more oils, along the path comes next came geranium, for example, and then you hop on, and then once you have money enough, then you can buy real rose. And then Palmarosa, you know, the name actually rhymes with rose, right? Palmarosa. And it actually has this resemblance, a little bit of a resemblance, or some people say it's really such an exchange or swap for rose when you don't have the money, but you sort of like want to come up with the kind of rosy scent, and you use Palmarosa. It's a cheaper version. And actually, it has a wonderful it has a wonderful aroma. But as you are refining your smell skills, and then you are going into more of the aroma realm, then you are going to discover that, you know, Palmarosa is step one. Then comes geranium. Then comes rose. This is actually for me. Whatever, regardless, I could say, Palmarosa has its own merits. It's a great oil, as you're gonna see in the video by Liz, and also I'm actually proving that, you know, Palmarosa is a great oil. But I'm talking about the scent, and I'm talking about blending. So, anyways, Palmarosa, as I said, belongs to the Poaceae family, the grass family, and it most often comes from India and Nepal. Lots of producers there, and it's a grass. It is steam distilled, and it definitely has a middle or hard note. The aroma description. Okay, so I was talking about the geranium, I was talking about the rosy scent. So first of all, it is a sweet floral scent. Fresh, definitely fresh. Definitely you could say rosy, but it's definitely dry. If it exists in the description of aromas, which it actually exists, because most often we would use it for something like a culinary or like a tasting description, but of course there's a dry fragrance, right, or dry aroma. But also I could say it's somehow exotic as well. So 5 descriptions pretty much helps me out with Palmarosa. So let's look at it, what sort of essential oils you could blend it with. First of all, citruses go hand in hand with most of the essential oils. So you could use bergamot, you could use lemon and orange. These are my top 3 in citruses. But you can try Palmarosa with rosemary or with coriander, also with bay laurel. That's a very interesting combination. And some of the woods, let's say, Atlas cedarwood Virginian, sandalwood definitely. You could also use amyris. Well, we don't have it in our cards, but amyris balsamifera, is a great oil to use it in blending. It's kind of a woody oil, but it's also a great fixative because it doesn't have a very strong and very potent smell, but it fixes other fragrances very well. Okay, let's list juniper berry. I could say it's a woody oil, but it actually comes from the fruit. Then also we could list frankincense, some of the florals like ylang ylang, geranium, neroli, and also petitgrain. So if we are talking about neroli and the bitter orange, maybe we can try bitter orange as well, right? Not just neroli, which comes from the flowers, and petitgrain, which comes from the leaves. And because it has a similar composition and similar aroma profile, you could also use Palmarosa with lemongrass, Indian lemongrass. And if you can use it with Indian lemongrass, then also you can use it with Mei Chang or Litsea cubaeva in another name, okay? You could try Roman chamomile, and you could try lavender and lavandin with most of the oils, and also clary sage, and maybe as an extra you can try patchouli with Palmarosa. When I started studying aromatherapy, I tried to work out some recipes for myself, and I was really confident. And I like this recipe, which I named Equilibrium. I don't know why, but that was just a fantasy name that came in my head. and it has Palmarosa, and I give you the proportions. So Palmarosa, I use 7 drops. Sweet orange, I use 9 drops. Lavender, 7 drops. Sorry, I'm peeping at my notes. Clary sage, I used 4. And sweet marjoram, I used 4 drops. So if you combine this, and I don't know why I called it equilibrium, I think it's because some kind of like, it gives you some kind of serene feeling. At the same time, it uplifts you. So try this, called equilibrium. Chemistry, a little bit about chemistry. It mainly consists of geraniol, which is an alcohol, geranyl acetate, which is an ester, also linalool, and beta caryophyllene. So these are alcohols, esters, and monoterpenes. Right? So it is pretty much a safe oil, but a patch test is always advisable. So before you use any of the essential oils, but with Palmarosa, use a patch test, and if you have no allergic reaction, you can use it on the skin. Because if you're looking at the uses, which Liz is going to talk about it in this video extensively, and it was about the physical uses in video 1, it is a wonderful oil for the skin. They use it mainly for sebum, so you know, the grease and the oil that comes out, sebum regulation, right? So it's for the skin. It actually encourages elasticity, moisturizes dry and mature skin, plus it effectively combats acne, right? Effectively combats acne, because a lot of the teenagers suffer from acne, and other people as well. So try use Palmarosa, but you can use it in PMS blends. And then I think that my equilibrium blend was also created for PMS symptoms or complaints. So it's an antiseptic oil. It's great for stress relief in blends, and commonly, because it's a cheaper oil, some people use it as an insect repellent, or you can put it in candles, for example. So if you look at the safety, just really briefly touching, it is actually a non-irritant, non-phototoxic, or non-sensitizing oil. But as I said, always do the patch test first before doing anything else. So if you like this video, then come back for the next one in the rows. And until that, as always, I wish you happy blending.
You get your phone, you turn it this way up, and then there's a little red subscribe button. Turn it grey by clicking it, and then there's a little bell. Click that and press all at the bottom of your phone or tablet or computer. It will say you will receive all notifications, and then there's a little hand with a thumbs up. Click that, it'll turn it blue and it says added to your liked videos, and there will be comments, and if you want to, you can send a comment and say like hi's to Mum and Gagli, and then the link to the next video will be in the description below underneath the video. So bye.